This is Maestro Cortello with a Company of Heroes 2 cast. Today we have a 1v1 on a map that's called something like Langreskaya, certainly very tough to pronounce, but that is roughly the name of the map. Our first player, playing as the Ostheer, is Crave.Cataclaw. He's already put down an infantry company with his starting pioneers, and he's starting to build a grenadier squad. Cataclaw's opponent is Crabby, playing as the Soviet Union. Crabby, on the other hand, has decided not to build a production building just yet. He moved out with his combat engineer squad and captured a standard territory point, so he's already getting some territory points, captured a bit faster than Cataclaw is. That is, of course, just a little detail about the early game. With the Soviet Union, you can more feasibly forego building a production building right at the start of the game because you can build conscripts from your regimental field headquarters. One of the advantages that gives the Soviet Union, however slight of an advantage it may be, is that they can generally have an easier time of just sending their units right out to start capturing territory points, and they basically can just start capturing territory points slightly faster than the Ostheer. Now, the Ostheer, technically you could do this with the Ostheer if you also decided to forego building a production building and made an opening build consisting of pioneers. That is something that's a little bit trickier to handle since these pioneers aren't really quite the best combat units. They're actually not that bad, but the Soviets, of course, do get a real combat unit out of their regimental field headquarters. And we see that Crabby he's just built so far 2 conscripts. While he's capturing, he's actually keeping some of his units in cover. You can one of the advantages of the new capture circles that exist in Company of Heroes 2 is that you can have a unit capture in cover. There's this well right here in the screen. It provides green cover, and you can actually have a unit capture while being in that cover. Right now, Crabby could have actually put his combat engineers in the green cover while capturing, so he has exposed combat engineers. Meanwhile, the pioneers instead from Cataclaw have actually taken that green cover. So a little bit of maybe a micro mismanagement by Crabby. He may have also expected that maybe Cataclaw wouldn't have assaulted him in that position and he wouldn't have needed to be in cover. And I know sometimes I personally find it tempting to just click on the point since it's easier to shift click by clicking directly on the point to queue up multiple capture orders. But the disadvantage for that is that you're having your units capturing while not necessarily being in cover unless it happens to coincide with right where the capture point is, which usually it isn't. Usually you have to manually move your unit to whatever cover is available in the capture zone. So we see that so far, Crabby has still not produced another production building. He's actually on the losing end of map control right now. They had roughly even opening capture orders, but Cataclaw just had actually won an early engagement. Now, Crabby retreated out of that engagement without taking any losses, so at least he did not suffer any manpower bleed. But he is suffering a bit on map control. But I think he's got some Flamer combat engineers. Very early Flamer, possibly going to wipe out, yes, and the pioneers from Cataclaw go down. So now Crabby's coming out on the better end of things. The interesting things about these Flamers is that they apparently do something called criticals. There's a whole array of things called criticals in Company of Heroes and Company of Heroes 2 that does not even exist in and wow, we have a conscript squad that just might go down here. So there's something called criticals that doesn't even really exist in Dawn of War 2. One of the things that can apparently happen with a Flamer unit is that apparently at times they even have a random chance to either very quickly kill a squad, basically an infantry squad member, or even instantly. I'm not entirely sure how it works, especially, again, this is something that doesn't really exist in Dawn of War 2. But it's just one of the things that can make those Flamers very, very powerful. And I think some of that may have happened there with that Pioneer squad getting killed very, very quickly. So Crabby has chosen not to go for any production building yet. He still has not built one, and he's basically going for an opening build of conscripts. This is at least ostensibly similar to the early rifle play from Company of Heroes. Basically, you're just getting a lot of early range squads out, and these conscripts do have a lot of versatility between being able to access a Molotov cocktail, an anti-tank grenade, all of those things, just giving them some versatility, able to deal with many kinds of threats. Now, Cataclaw, on the other hand, he's gone for a fairly interesting opening build, which he's gone for 2 snipers, and this is definitely getting snipers is more common for Soviet players than for German players. Now, part of the reason this is because that the Soviet units have bigger squad sizes, both for their regular infantry as well as their weapons team. So German snipers generally aren't really as efficient, since they do low DPS but high burst damage. Basically, they just instantly kill a member of a squad. It causes manpower bleed, because every time they take a shot, they are causing manpower bleed. It's just every shot they take is manpower that your opponent is going to have to pay to reinforce. And right now we see that these snipers are actually doing very, very well from Cataclaw, and that's very interesting to see, considering it's less common for the Germans, more common for the Soviets, because especially if you got 2 snipers as a Soviet player, you take 2 shots on a Grenadier squad, and then that Grenadier squad immediately needs to retreat. If it doesn't retreat, it risks getting wiped entirely, and you also already have the combat efficiency of that Grenadier squad cut in half. When you have 2 snipers taking shot at a conscript squad, you're only reducing that combat efficiency by 1/3. And the conscripts are also a bit better at responding to a sniper by doing things like using URA to charge snipers, especially if you have multiple conscript squads. If you have isolated conscript squads, these German snipers will do a little bit better. Now, the way these snipers work in Company of Heroes 2 is different from both Dawn of War and the original Company of Heroes. Basically, they are only infiltrated when they are in cover, which, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense. It's actually very realistic, or at least very authentic. Let's actually get a close-up look at this sniper. So he's right there. He actually has a Gewehr 43 sniper rifle, or Gewehr 43 with a scope. The Gewehr 43 was the semi-automatic rifle that came out of the Germans in World War II. So roughly similar to the M1 Garand that the Americans had, or the SVT-40, which is equipped on the penal battalions, in fact. Now, a situation like this is a situation where those snipers are going to be a lot less effective. So Crabby might be responding to these snipers by blobbing up his units a little bit more, as well as bringing the sniper up. And the reason we see, at least one of the reasons, aside from the fact that these units just got really close to the sniper, but one of the reasons Cataclaw is retreating his snipers is how incredibly effective these combat engineers with the flamethrower are against the snipers. They will basically take out the sniper pretty much instantly if they get in range. That's one of the reasons a flamer half-track or a scout car with a flamer inside can be very, very effective against snipers from either side. There it looks like a Grenadier squad went down. But one of the things I see, we already have quite a few squads that are getting veterancy. We have a vetted Grenadier squad right here, as well as a vetted conscript squad. Now, the veterancy upgrade actually in Company of Heroes 2 generally does not really increase the actual combat effectiveness of units at Vet 1, because Vet 1 is usually an ability, and it depends on what the ability is. In the case of this sniper, they actually get the incendiary round ability for veterancy, so that is actually something that could improve their combat efficiency, since the incendiary round can be pretty effective. It says it stuns nearby squad mates of the unfortunate target, so it has basically like a status effect when used. Now, the Grenadiers, on the other hand, they only have a first aid ability that allows them to heal other units. So this is something that it doesn't really improve their ability to actually fight. So that Vet 1 upgrade does not improve their ability to actually fight. In the case of the conscripts, they get the tripwire flare ability, I believe. Yes, if we check a non-vetted conscript, yes, it is the tripwire flare. That is actually an ability I almost never see used. It will apparently reveal a position. We have a Grenadier squad that's about to die. Cataclaw apparently not quite paying attention to this when he retreats it out of there, but it's retreating through snow, so it's going very slowly and just barely managed to get out of there. So it's really not until... Oh no! These snipers want to get out of there, I think. I think so. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Oh, and a sniper does go down. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, you really can't have a sniper just fight a unit directly like that. I mean, that sniper had a lot of support in the form of 2 grenadier squads right here, and with any luck, for Cataclaw, maybe he'll take out the conscript squad, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And here we go. We have now we have a scout car out of Crabby. So it's really not until Vet 2 or Vet 3 when the combat effectiveness of a unit really starts to go up from that veterancy. But once you do get that Vet 2 and especially Vet 3 upgrade, usually you're dealing with a pretty beastly unit, even for something like conscripts, but especially with conscripts that have PPSHs. So it appears that Crabby has gone for the, I believe it's something like the Guard Motor Combined Arm Tactics or something like that. But basically, what this gives you, it gives you access to the Guard Rifles, Elite Infantry. Those Guard Rifles are a pretty good generalist unit, in spite of being Elite Infantry. They're really, I'd call them a generalist unit, since they function as anti-infantry, both with their rifles. If you get the PPSH, not the PPSH, the DP light machine gun upgrade, as well as having those PTRS anti-tank rifles, which are very good against light vehicles, although not so good against actual tanks. Now, it also gives him access to the Hit the Dirt ability, which we see is activated on these conscripts right here, as well as the PPSH submachine gun upgrade, making the conscripts, they scale, wow, and that conscript, I was about to say, they scale extremely well, but they're not going to scale if they're dead. But that conscript squad went down. Probably a rifle grenade went in on them, just like we saw a rifle grenade right there. But, and Crabby has taken quite a few losses from that, in fact. Now, as it is, we're going to see if maybe a sniper will go down for Cataclaw. It's being chased after by a scout car. The scout car could probably... No, we already have an Ostwind now. Wow, that is a fast Ostwind. So Cataclaw, let's just go take a look at Cataclaw. Yeah, I mean, to get an Ostwind out that quickly, he must have skipped one tech building, and he did, in fact, skip the Light Mechanized Company, which is kind of surprising. That means he's foregoing Panzer Grenadiers, at least for now, and Panzer Grenadiers are extremely, extremely good. But the benefit he gets out of that is getting out something like this, an Ostwind out so quickly before Crabby can really have adequate responses. Now, pretty much, I think the best Crabby is going to do right now is he might be able to get some anti-tank grenades for his conscripts, and that can at least slow the Ostwind down. But it's going to be hard for them to get that AT grenade off without taking a few losses. It looks like he's probably going to go for a throw right here. He does go for a throw, but that Ostwind is just so good against infantry that he really needs to be careful with the conscripts. So this Ostwind, this is the Flak Panzer Ostwind. It is probably, to be honest, not that commonly seen out of the Soviet Union. Oh no, sniper from Cataclaw needs to retreat or it's going to get killed by these PPSH conscripts. I think it will just about be fine. But yeah, we have this Ostwind right here. It is mostly an anti-infantry specialist tank. It can definitely kill light vehicles, as we saw the way it took out that scout car right there. And it can kind of do some light damage to tanks, but in general it will lose to other tanks. It's mainly an anti-infantry tank. It's very, very powerful against infantry. Now, I think because Cataclaw is actually now building his light mechanized company after. This is called back-teching. When you go ahead, you skip a tech building, and then you get it again later after you've teched to a tech building that's more ahead. It's called back-teching in Company of Heroes lingo. Now, if we go to Crabby's side, one of the reasons that Ostwind was going to work out well was that because Crabby went for the Special Rifle Command, he really does not get a lot in terms of early anti-tank. He did not go for the support weapon camp, so he won't be able to get those early divisional field guns, and there really isn't that much anti-tank coming out of the Special Rifle Command. I've been told that the Penal Battalion does well against light vehicles with their SVT-40s, though. For that reason, Crabby has gone for the Mechanized Armor Camp, which is generally complements the Special Rifle Command better than the Tank Battalion Command, again, because there is that lack of anti-tank coming out of the Special Rifle Command. And then you have this Mechanized Armor Camp, which, if anything, overperforms as anti-tank. And it's kind of lopsided in that respect, since it doesn't provide you much direct anti-infantry. You don't get an infantry support tank. You really get anti-tank, as well as artillery out of the mechanized armor camp. But yeah, that's a very good way to describe it. The Su-85 is pretty much pure anti-tank. The Katyusha rocket truck is pretty much pure artillery. And then the Su-76 is actually a mixture of both, although not nearly as good at either. So it's interesting. It's the Su-76 is kind of in between these two, the Su-85 and the Katyusha. Clearly not nearly as good at either one at those units' specialized purpose. And Crabby looking terribly, terribly thin right now. He got those 4 conscripts, and he has really the doctrine that supports the conscripts better than anything, makes them scale incredibly well. Like, better than scale, it makes them extremely good. Like, not just makes them relevant, but makes them extremely good well into the late game. They become extremely devastating with those PPSHs. And he's getting out an Su-85, and I'm not sure, to be honest, I'm not sure that he has much other choice. He really needs something to deal with this Ostwind. The Ostwind right now is really giving Cataclaw some dominance. Now, Cataclaw, if we take a look at things, he does now have out some Panzer Grenadiers. They are actually garrisoned inside a bunker set up in the middle, and they have already been upgraded to Panzer Shrek. So that's interesting that Cataclaw seems to mainly be relying... He's going to mainly be relying on his Grenadiers for anti-infantry, and they generally aren't as good as the Panzer Grenadiers for that purpose. However, they do actually do very well with the MG42 light machine gun upgrade. All right, we have an AT grenade going off. I think that's... And I think... Oh, this is going to be a dead Ostwind, so Cataclaw not quite being a little, maybe... just not cautious enough with this Ostwind. He may have actually not even seen this Su-85 because of the effects of the blizzard that generally lower line of sight. And there we have an Ostwind dead. So well played by Crabby, and a pretty basic play, just running the conscripts up, getting that 18-8 off, and then following it up with the Su-85. Meanwhile, Cataclaw doesn't really quite have too many adequate responses, but Crabby lost yet another conscript squad, so it's a little disappointing to see him not doing very well with the conscripts when after getting the really what is basically the conscript doctrine. This is pretty much the most popular Soviet doctrine in the game right now. And it has these later abilities. You can get a howitzer, which gives you on-map artillery. And you can also get this IL-2 Sturmovik, basically an off-map strike. It is a plane strike, so it can be shot down with an anti-aircraft unit, such as the Ostwind, but Cataclaw no longer has it. Crabby is looking very thin on his army, though. Cataclaw maybe not really being aggressive enough on map control. He could be going around, since he, of course, he does. I get all of this knowledge from having a bird's eye view, but given the kind of composition and the units that Crabby has, he pretty much needs to fight with just about everything he has. Meanwhile, Cataclaw should have enough units that he could send a Grenadier off to the side to do some map control. And if we look right there, we have... Wow! That was a destroyed bunker. Now, that was Cataclaw not really responding fast enough. What happened there was the Su-76 used its artillery barrage ability on the bunker, which is very, very good as an anti-garrison weapon. Both for good for destroying the building as well as damaging the units inside. And it just took out that bunker. And since Cataclaw did not respond fast enough, he straight up lost his Panzer Grenadier squad with the Panzer Shreks, which is a huge loss if you think about it. Now we have a Stug out for Cataclaw, which is a little surprising to see him to get that Stug. This Stug is an assault gun, mainly functions as a tank destroyer, but unfortunately it really does not compare to the Su-85. It's just not as good. It generally loses in a straight-up fight. And people generally have been saying that the Stug kind of really lacks a place at the moment, because it just doesn't really... It's just not really good enough. It's... not really justified by its cost, and especially, I think more importantly, it's overshadowed by the Panzer IV, which is basically probably just as good, if not better, as anti-tank, better at as anti-infantry, as well as being tougher and having a turret. I think it's tougher. I'm actually not totally sure about that. But other than that, yes, it's generally just overshadowed by the Panzer IV. Panzer IV is a little more expensive, but still just generally the better deal. So Cataclaw is being very aggressive. We actually now see those Soviet snipers from Crabby, which is not a bad choice. Soviet snipers, in general, just probably just better, given the smaller size of German squads. Now, also, one thing that I'm actually not sure about, but that would definitely make those snipers a very good choice right now, is that wow, we actually had a building go down. I'm pretty sure Crabby lost another building. Lost another unit from being inside that building. But one thing that's potentially good about the Soviet sniper is if it still one-shots these vetted infantry, it can be it could, at least in theory, be a very good answer to dealing with vetted infantry. Since one of the great things about those vetted infantry is that they get durability increases at certain veterancy levels. For the Grenadiers, they get significantly increases armor at Vet 2, and this is something that makes them much more durable, makes them a lot better in combat, and generally gives them a huge edge over non-vetted infantry. Wow, and we actually had a Su-76 go down there. So yeah, if we take a look, I think that sniper fires on that Grenadier squad. Oh, it shot at something else. It's shooting at the MG42. Oh, and the half-track goes down as well. So that half-track, I saw that Cataclaw was actually using that as an on-the-field reinforcement point. MG gets decrewed by that sniper. Of course, one of the other uses of a sniper is just used as a way of taking out support weapons from far away, such as machine guns. We even have a Grenadier squad that has stolen a PTRS rifle, which, I'm not entirely sure about that. Those PTRS rifles are, they're just not very good for dealing with actual anti-tanks, or actual tanks, rather. And Crabby has lost his only light vehicle. I'm actually not, well, the Su-76 is considered an assault gun. Not a terribly durable tank, or assault gun. But I don't think those PTRS rifles are going to do very well at all. Oh no, we have a sniper here, out of position. Vet 2, but gets healed very quickly, so kind of Cataclaw just not responding quickly enough. And again, that is one of the good things about these conscripts. With the URA ability, which is of course unique to the Russians, they can actually do that with their infantry squads, where they can, at least just one strategy you can use is that you can actually rush a sniper like that, especially if two of these squads. Now, I don't think it would normally be wise to do that when they're as under strength as this. And it's surprising to see Crabby keep these conscripts on the field with only two members each. They're very, very under strength, very, very prone to just getting wiped when you're not being careful like that. But I'd say Cataclaw is, actually the map control is very roughly even. We have a squad of Grenadiers that's behind enemy lines, probably has not even spotted it. Now it has been spotted. I wonder if they will go for a Panzerschreck on this Su-76 that could leave it in, well, probably not that bad of a position. I actually wonder if that's going to be a waste. The good thing is it gave Vet 3 to those Grenadiers. But he did that at a time when he's not going to be able to follow up with anything, and the combat engineers are right here to repair that. So I don't think he achieved a whole lot with that Panzerfaust, other than giving his Grenadiers Vet 3. Now, one of the things I like is that he's managed to put a Panzerschreck on his Grenadier. He did that. He was not able to do that by... you can't purchase Panzerschrecks for the Grenadiers. That means he picked up a Panzerschreck that was dropped, probably from the Panzer Grenadier squad that he lost. And in a way, that's a really nice thing, because it means he gets anti-tank capabilities, reliable anti-tank capabilities, on a unit that would otherwise not have them. Ooh, and this is going to be nice, I think. If we have a combination of a Panzerfaust maybe on the Su-76, or even the Su-85, and he's going for the Su-85 rather than the Su-76. Unfortunately, I think he lost the Panzerschreck. No, the Panzerschreck is still there. He just lost the Icon because he lost one squad member. But he's not in such a good situation right now. He's really going hard for this Su-85, and he just might take it. He's just got to watch out for these not the conscripts, yeah, the combat engineers with that flamethrower, and I think he might even get the OSU-85, and he does get it. He's being rushed by all these conscripts, though. Oh no, he needs to retreat. I mean, he got what he wanted. He got his prize. I don't think that grenade was worth it, and he does lose that. He does lose the Panzer Grenadier squad. Oh my god. Cataclaw just lost almost his entire army. He's going to lose this squad too if he doesn't retreat it. I think he's going to lose it anyway. Alright, he does get it out of there. I think still some flames going in on that. Alright, he is going to get it out of there, but he still lost most of his army. So, I mean, it was a nice play. Oh, when he took out the Su-76 too. So, yeah, I mean, that was a nice play, but I think he just lost a little bit too much. He did not get out of there fast enough. I mean, if he had gotten out of there fast enough, he might still have... he might still have that Panzer Grenadier squad, as well as not having to reinforce as much manpower on this Grenadier squad. But at least he has 2 Vet 3 Grenadier squads right now. Needs to try to keep them alive, though. And anyway, we have a mortar half-track that is going way, way too close. I mean, there are so many things. Like, I have a lot of advantages over the players and how much I can see compared to them. It appears to be like a blizzard right now, so that can really block line of sight. We have a conscript squad nearly dead, and it does in fact go down. So a conscript squad, so many losses, and now we have a pack anti-tank gun building. I was going to say I'm somewhat surprised to see that pack. I don't know if he saw this, if he got it in response to that Su-85, or if he just got it preemptively because he feels that he knows that inevitably he's going to have to deal with more Su-85s. But Crabby, I haven't mentioned, has gone for the Spearhead Doctrine. Now, this Spearhead Doctrine is like a slightly different version of the Armored Assault Doctrine, except a little bit more fair. That Armored Assault Doctrine also has the Tiger Tank, also has the Fragmentation Bomb, and more importantly, it has the Opel Blitz Truck and the Strafing Run, which kind of combine to make those the best German doctrine by far. This doctrine is similar because it has the Tiger as well as the Fragmentation Bomb, but it has some other abilities as well. And now it doesn't have that Opel Blitz Truck, so you can't get the massive resource income that you can get from that. What it has instead is this mortar half-track. The mortar half-track is pretty nice. It is better than the actual mortar teams that the Germans have. Their regular infantry-based mortar team. It also has the mortar half-track. It also has a incendiary barrage mortar ability, which is very nice, as well as a smoke barrage mortar ability. Importantly, you can also get the Panzer Tactician ability out of this doctrine, which allows vehicles to deploy smoke charges that can block line of sight to kind of save their asses. So we saw a mortar strike going down right there. Guards have actually dropped a DP, and they picked it back up to make sure to deny it from being stolen by their opponent. Now, this anti-tank gun is kind of situated right here. It is taking some shots at the Su-85, and it's actually landing them. Now, unfortunately for... Well, it looks like this anti-tank gun is being charged. Guard rifles are right here. I wonder if they will throw a grenade, but they are being suppressed. Most of these units right here are being suppressed, but it still looks like Cataclaw is really being rushed a lot. He's moving the anti-tank gun up. I don't think that's a very good choice. Oh, wow, the guard rifles went down. But so did the MG42 machine gun, or at least the team did. Again, I don't know what this anti-tank gun is doing. Probably what happened is that he ordered it to attack the Su-85, and now the Su-85 is out of range, so it was chasing after, which is, of course, terrible. And, I mean, oh my god, the losses that Cataclaw is taking. Now, I don't think this Grenadier squad should stay right here. It's only got one unit, one member, one model. Now it doesn't even have any models with rifles, so it's basically not doing any anti-infantry damage. And wow, look at this. We have a conscript squad. They have PPSH submachine guns. They've also stolen an MG42 light machine gun, so there's going to be a lot of firepower coming out of this squad. Now on this side, we also have Grenadiers that I believe have stolen a DP. Yep, they have 2 DPs, in fact. They've stolen 2 DPs, so we're going to give them a nice little boost in firepower. And both these squads right here at Vet 3. Molotov gets thrown. Cataclaw tries to respond, but he isn't quite that fast. Well, I mean, he does respond, but just wasn't able to get out of it entirely. Looks like a rifle grenade shot. And wow, we have a conscript squad now. It looks like this conscript squad will actually get out of there just fine. And here we go with a new Ostwind. I'm surprised to see that, and we get the Su-85 so close. I'm very concerned with the welfare of this Ostwind. The Ostwind is actually taking shots. He's trying to go for the Su-85 with the Ostwind. He actually looks like he's really going for it, and it's not doing much. It's actually missing, in fact, and even when it hits, those shots are just being deflected. Those 3.7 centimeter, or we can say 37 millimeter gun. I mean, every shot is being deflected. Side armor. Can any rear armor shots actually hit? No, he's just not hitting the Ostwind at all. But something else takes it out. That pack takes it out. So I think now Crabby is probably left without any anti-tank, but he is, of course, building a new Su-85. And here we also have a Katyusha rocket truck. This is an artillery unit from the Soviet Union. It has a huge spread, so it's mostly a saturation barrage weapon. Once it's shot, you're kind of like, if you're on the receiving end of it, you will kind of like be praying not to get hit. So there have been a huge amount of losses in this game, which is something I'm personally not used to. I'm used to Dawn of War 2, where if you play things right, you can generally expect to preserve most of your squads, and if you do lose this many units, it's usually the end of the game for you. But we're at a bit of a standstill. Blizzard is now in effect. That, of course, means that units will start to freeze to death. Once they are out in the open, they need to either go to garrisons, go to a base, go to fire pits to stay warm. I believe the effects of freezing will also be halted if units are in cover, but they will not warm up. Alright, looks like things are going to start to happen. I would expect a Katyusha barrage probably anytime soon. Now, I'm kind of surprised to see Cataclaw go for those Ostwinds when he knows he's going to be dealing with Su-85s, and especially just only the Ostwind, because right now his only anti-tank is pretty much the pack, which he just lost the pack somehow. Hard to even tell what's going on. But we have a conscript squad, another conscript squad goes down, and a new half-track as well. Again, probably just used as on-the-field reinforcement. Unfortunately, Cataclaw has pretty much no anti-tank on the field. His only anti-tank right now is these Grenadiers, Vetri Grenadiers, which are actually under strength, going out into the field with 2 members, probably planning to reinforce by the half-track. Katyusha taking shots, and if you notice, look at the... I mean, if you saw before it stopped firing, it fired in several intervals. We have a sniper that took out another Grenadier model, and they actually dropped a DP. They dropped a stolen DP. And as it is, I think Crabby just lost that sniper as well. Yep, because we can see the bodies of that sniper team down right there. The sniper rifle is in fact right there. I think that's a yes, that is in fact a Mosin Nagant sniper rifle on the ground. The bolt action rifle is what the conscripts hold as well, and probably the combat engineers as well. Except the snipers do, of course, have a scope on their Mosin Nagants. So Crabby is pushed back in his base again. One of the things about this game is that it actually really does take a lot of endurance, and that's something that maybe I don't have from Dawn of War 2, since games end quicker in Dawn of War 2, and generally if you lose as many units in Dawn of War 2 as these players have lost right here, that generally means you lost. Whereas in this game, the game goes on. This game is only slightly more than half over. These players have lost a ton of things, and they're still playing it. There's still a lot of VPs, 283 for Cataclaw and 188 for Crabby. Something's going right here.
The enemy is taking our
That's actually a reconnaissance overflight. So basically a scouting plane, just to reveal the area. Doesn't actually do any kind of damage, but obviously allows you to see a lot of things, just see the positioning of your opponent. You can also, specifically with this doctrine, you can actually combine it with that fragmentation bomb. Although that is very, very expensive to do that. Now, Crabby is charging ahead with his conscripts, and I think this charge might be a little misguided. He's charging ahead. He basically charged ahead mainly with 2 conscripts. One got forced off the field with only 1 model, and I think he's just charging into too many blobbed up forces without having enough support. Now, I guess one of the things he is trying to do is maybe sight for his Katyusha, so maybe that was his plan all along. He wasn't necessarily going for an all-out actual rush, or a concerted push. Although I feel he could have, and possibly done better overall. He was kind of missing his other units, missing his sniper. His Su-85 is getting repairs, and where are his combat engineers? His combat engineers have not finished their repairs. So he chose to rush ahead without the support of his Su-85, which meant that he was not going to be able to take out the Ostwind or the half-track. But he could have potentially just waited. As it is, I think he threw an AT grenade at this Ostwind. He threw that AT grenade, used the munitions, but again, did not follow it up with anything, so the Ostwind just got repaired. And, I mean, I feel like that's not such a great use. That's not such a great use of the conscripts. I mean, on the one hand, it does give them veterancy, which is something in this game that is, again, different from Dawn of War 2, and probably also Company of Heroes as well. They get that veterancy out of that, and I mean, certainly Vet 3 conscripts are nothing to laugh at. But he definitely paid in manpower for it, because he bled a lot of manpower for it. If we take a look at Crabby's resources, he's not doing too bad for manpower. But, I mean, just, again, was it really necessary to spend that manpower just to get a little veterancy for his conscripts? I personally don't think it was. Anyway, at least now the Su-85 is all the way back here, but now he's moving his Su-85 up. He needs to move that up. Now at least he's moving it up with pretty much everything. He just has the Katyusha in the back, which of course does need to stay back. Oh, but the half-track has actually managed to get... Wow, this is a nice play. He's gotten the half-track around the Su-85, and now he's going for... I mean, the Panzer... The whole reason he did that was to get the Panzer Grenadiers, the Grenadiers right here with their Panzerschreck to finish off this Su-85, and these Grenadiers are doing nothing. They're not doing anything. Oh my god, what are they doing? They're split up, 2 men... Wow. I can't believe this. I mean, it looked like a beautiful play, and it turned into a huge derp. Wow. That was a huge derp. It looked like such a beautiful play while it was in the making, because what it looked like he was doing, it looks like he was getting around the gun of the Su-85 so he could deliver those Grenadiers right there to take out the Su-85 with their stolen, well, not with their stolen, with their reacquired Panzerschreck. But those Grenadiers did nothing. They just kind of stood there. I don't know if he just lost track of things or if there was some kind of like bug in the game, but it just looks like a huge derp. A huge derp. But anyway, right here we have a half-track. It is very low on health. Now these conscripts don't have any actual like anti-tank weapon, but this is a light vehicle. It can take some damage from small arms fire. So these conscripts could actually finish off the half-track, and I think that's what Crabby's going for. Now, I think more interesting things might be going on over here, such as this tank destroyer, this Su-85, which should take out the Ostwind. Now, the question is really, will Cataclaw... Yes, he is repositioning his anti-tank gun to start taking shots at the Su-85, and he even seems to be baiting the Su-85 into exposing its rear armor to the... Wow, beautiful play by Cataclaw. Now, I wonder if that was intentional, because if it was brilliant. He brought the Ostwind, he turned the Ostwind around. The Ostwind had no chance against the Su-85 on its own, but he was driving the Ostwind in such a way that forced the Su-85 to turn and expose its rear armor to the AT gun. So if that was intentional, it was a brilliant play. If not, I mean, it was brilliant even if it wasn't intentional. Now, unfortunately for Cataclaw, he has, again, lost almost his entire army. And this is, again, one of those things where I don't even understand how the game can go on. But that's my experience as a Dawn of War 2 player. You use this many units in Dawn of War 2, you're probably done. But Dawn of War 2 is just a much more punishing game in that respect. But, still a lot of VPs, and the VPs tick down so slowly in this game, and neither player right now has the middle VP. It's been whited out, so it's a 1-to-1 at 261 for Cataclaw and 151 for Crabby. Now, Crabby is on the lower end of VPs. He is in a slightly better position as far as his army goes, with still preserving some conscripts. He's got 3 conscripts. One has a DP. Some of the others have. One has an MG42, and of course we have some PPSHs. Vet 3 conscripts, Vet 3 combat engineers, and a sniper. I wonder how many snipers have been in this game. We even have the sniper is taking fire. I'm not sure at what. Probably actually taking a shot at the Panzer Grenadiers. But probably does not have line of sight anymore. Now, snipers, for whatever reason, are immune to the effects of cold. They apparently just have very, very warm jackets. But with the sight, probably from these conscripts, the sniper should be able to take another shot. Yes, took another shot on those Panzer Grenadiers. This Panzer Grenadier is at 1 model, so 1 more sniper shot will kill it. But I think Crabby no longer has sight on that Panzer Grenadier. We have yet another Su-85, and I mean, this is just one of the things that the Soviet players tend to do. Just keep pressing it, keep pumping out Su-85s. Very, very good as anti-tank, given their range, penetration, etc. Probably just one of the best overall anti-tank units in the game, and to be honest, probably the best anti-tank unit in the game when you consider probably the best overall anti-tank unit in the game, or probably just the most versatile, just in terms of like how often you can get it out, how expensive, or rather how affordable it is. And I mean, I'm comparing it to things like, I don't know, say an Elephant, which is definitely better flat out, but costs a lot more, is Doctrine specific. So that Su-85 is just really great in terms of roughly how much it costs, the fact that it comes out of production building, so it's not Doctrine specific. But it just creates kind of an interesting, I don't know, I feel like I want to use the word dichotomy to sound really smart, but I mean, just an interesting contrast. We'll just say that. Contrast between the way the composition works out for the Soviets, where basically, at least with the build that Crabby has gone, which is emphasizing conscripts with PPSHs and Su-85s, basically pretty much all or most of the anti-infantry firepower is coming out of his actual infantry, whereas most of the anti-tank firepower is coming out of his tanks. But at this point, we have a Panzer IV now out for Cataclaw. Panzer IV, of course, the medium tank from the Ostheer, rather. Very, very all-rounded. I was surprised not to see that a little earlier, since most players usually at the start, early on, as their first tank purchase for the Ostheer, will usually just go for that Panzer IV because of how well-rounded it is. It functions pretty solid as anti-infantry, not as good as that Ostwind, but it functions pretty solidly as that, while still being also very, very solid anti-tank. Now, as far as what I said about the Soviets and that composition, of course, there is some anti-tank capabilities coming out of their infantry in the form of the AT grenades from the conscripts, as well as those PTRS rifles, but, I mean, just generally, most of the anti-tank firepower is coming out of the tanks, and most of the anti-infantry firepower is coming out of the infantry. By comparison, you just get a little more from the
from the Germans, from the Ostheer, this Panzer IV has a lot more anti-infantry firepower than, say, that Su-85, as well as that Ostwind being again providing a lot of anti-infantry firepower. And then any German unit with some Panzerschrecks, be it the Panzer Grenadiers that can actually buy them, or the Grenadiers we saw in this game that just pick them up, those function very, very well as anti-tank. I mean, of course, there is the issue of the squad getting shot up on approach, but just as far as when those Panzerschrecks actually land, they're very powerful. Now, that right there, I think, is the example of the Flamer crits. We saw 2 models right there, died pretty much instantly and they were just lit on fire. And I think that is just an example of the crits, short for criticals, basically just those infantry getting instantly killed by the flames. And it's something I think determined by a percent chance, probably a low percent chance. But this Panzer IV is very, very solid, and we see that Cataclaw has opted not to build that heavy Panzer Corps, and that is something maybe, I don't know, I wonder if maybe the developers might want to take a look into that, just because at least right now, it really looks like, for German 1v1 play, it really seems like the standard is to not even get the heavy Panzer Corps, because you can get this Panzer IV out of the support armor core, which is really only marginally worse, if it even is worse than the Panther coming out of the heavy Panzer Corps. And it really just seems like, in general, in 1v1, Ostheer players are not even getting the heavy Panzer Corps, and of course, consequently, not getting any of the units get out of the heavy Panzer Corps. And it's almost like you forget what even comes out of that heavy Panzer Corps. And I mean, it is of course nice if you can actually save resources on a production building. That's even more so for the Soviets. And the Soviets, in general, really end up only building 2 production buildings. Sometimes 3. I've seen that a few times. I've seen sometimes people will get the mechanized armor camp out of the Soviets, and then they'll actually go for the tank battalion command, specifically against players who use the German strafing run, so that they can back tech to get the quad 50 cal half track for anti-air. I've seen that. I think occasionally I have seen both of the infantry production buildings out of the Soviets. You almost never see all 4 production buildings out of the Soviets. Sometimes you do see it out of the Germans, but more commonly you see them just not getting that heavy Panzer Corps, and it's just more common to see them get every production building except that heavy Panzer Corps. And to the extent that they're going to get, the extent that German players might want some kind of heavier, bigger tank than the Panzer IV, they'll usually just rely on a Doctrine for that. They'll either get the Tiger or the Elephant. Although I haven't seen the Elephant too much in 1v1, it is something that is potentially very powerful, since it really is the main counter to that Su-85. Here we have some more Katyusha rocket truck shots going in. These games get so long, and we have a half track right here. Just kind of scouting around. It's actually doing damage to the Katyusha, but I don't think it's going to take it out. And now it has gotten hit by an AT grenade, so I'm not entirely sure what Cataclaw wanted to do with that. He may have been searching for that sniper, or he may have just wanted to get some vision on where that Katyusha was. Now, what Crabby is doing, which is smart, is that because Crave.Cataclaw scouted out the Katyusha, Crabby moved it. He moved it so that it is in a different location. That's just a good idea, so that your opponent doesn't just do something like run over their Panzer IV, say, and just take out the Katyusha, especially since I believe the Katyusha dies in 1 hit from the Panzer IV. I know it dies in 1 hit from the Panther, and it probably does die in 1 hit from the Panzer IV as well. Now we see this Panzer IV has activated Blitzkrieg, making it drive incredibly fast. He's using that so that he can circle around the Su-85, and this is going to be, I think, a dead Su-85 if only the Panzer retargets. And yes, there's another dead Su-85. We've had a lot of dead Su-85s in this game. Now, meanwhile, we still have this half-track is still here. Now, I want to check Cataclaw's Fog of War. Yeah, I don't think he can even see that Katyusha. So Crabby doing a good job to keep moving his Katyusha to keep it hidden. So that Katyusha is something. It's a very powerful asset. It's a glass cannon, but it's something that's kept behind enemy lines, so it can be difficult to kill because it's behind your opponent's lines. But if you can manage to actually get around it, it can really die very quickly. You can actually think of it, I don't know, you can actually just think of it a lot like artillery units in Dawn of War 2, whether it's like the Manticore or the Zoanthrope. Units that are very easily killed, but if you can get close to them. And that's often a very big if, since they will often be kept far away behind an entire army, pretty much. So another lull in the action. We're at the 50-minute mark. And VPs are actually roughly even. So it was really Cataclaw who had the VP lead for most of the game. Now it is Crabby with a slight VP lead, although he's about to lose it. He's also about to run straight into some MG42 fire. He's got most of his units suppressed. And there's apparently a mortar. That mortar is... I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, that's actually a mortar half-track from... Oh, and here we go with another Katyusha barrage. I think actually took out that machine gun. Took out not only the MG crew, but the machine gun itself. So, Cataclaw, if he... Actually, no. I'm just kidding. Unless it was this one. And I'm wrong. But I could have sworn there was an MG over here. A new Ostwind out. So it's, again, I'm kind of surprised to see Ostwinds, more Ostwinds. Right now, I don't even think Crabby can see the Ostwind. Yes, he can. Actually, no. We need to turn off Fog of War. I don't know. And again, here we see that he's using his half-track as a way of getting, Panzer Grenadiers with Panzer Shreks close to the Su-85. So I think that's a very smart thing. This time he's not derping. It looks like he's actually going to pull it off. So just one more volley. Not even one more volley. We actually got a penetration from the Flak Panzer Ostwind and actually took out the Su-85. Let me just check to make sure. Yep, it actually killed the Su-85. Now, these Panzer Grenadiers need to get out of there. They only have Panzer Shrek models off, so they won't really be able to fight. Oh, no, and they just got hit by a Molotov right there. Because those Panzer Grenadiers really did not need to stay any longer. They were themselves not going to win over those conscripts. Meanwhile, the Ostwind was going to win over the conscripts all by itself, so it didn't need the Panzer Grenadiers. Oh, and there we saw a Katyusha rocket barrage, instantly decrewing the rest of the members on that MG42 heavy machine gun.
It is ours. Conditions clear. The blizzard is gone.
Blizzard is gone, so they won't be freezing to death. This looks like a relatively new Grenadier squad out of Cataclaw. Only has one. It actually has only one kill, but it's that one. It needs to retreat. It can't fight this army. He's going to lose this fresh Grenadier squad. So this is a bit of quite a blob right here that could potentially be pretty intimidating. We have some Oorah, probably going to throw some AT grenades on that Ostwind, and we might also have some follow-up with the PTRS rifles from the Guard rifles. We actually had them, the PTRS rifles, or rather the DPs on the Guard rifles were actually used to button this Flak Panzer Ostwind. So this Ostwind might go down. I think it mainly needs follow-up from these Guard rifles, which are actually kind of hanging back. But now there are two Ostwinds. So two Ostwinds are going to make short work, and they actually just took out that conscript squad. So two Ostwinds, extremely powerful anti-infantry firepower coming out of that. I don't even think you could viably run up either conscripts with AT grenades or Guard rifles up against two Ostwinds like this. And this actually looks like the final the final push for Cataclaw that is probably going to give him the game. It actually seems to be these double Ostwinds. Now, I mean, there are still a lot of conscripts and guard rifles here, but I mean, just Cataclaw is being very, very aggressive. If he can get a shot off on this Katyusha might just be dead right around here. He's trying to go for it. The Panzer IV is missing. One shot right here should take out this Katyusha. Wow, oh wow. I'm wrong. That did not actually do nearly as much damage as I thought it would. Alright, that time it killed it. That was what I really expected. I thought it was just going to kill it one time. Now we have a Panzer IV that has armored skirts. It gets that at Vet 2, which reduces its damage taken. If we take a look at it, get a closer look, it actually gives it armored skirts. And I find that kind of like a funny name. I guess it's like a skirt because of the way it covers the treads. But, I'd say, I mean, at this point, I'd say this is actually probably Cataclaw's game. And Crabby has nice infantry left, but I think his infantry really just can't approach. All these Ostwinds, now an MG42, as well as this Panzer IV. It's just too much anti-infantry firepower. I mean, even if he gets an AT grenade off, no, it's just not happening. I mean, there's the suppression, halting their approach, which is, of course, the scariest thing when those conscripts are oorahing and approaching. But there's just, again, just too much anti-infantry firepower coming out of these Ostwinds, and even the Panzer IV as well. And we even have the half-track that can also just do some nice burst damage if it actually manages to land a hit. So it looks like this is probably going to be the end of the game very soon. VPs are still a double cap in favor of Cataclaw, 132 to 61. And that actually is the end of the game. Again, quite a long game. These Company of Heroes games are quite long. Some are shorter, but I mean, I figure they aren't as good games. I mean, these long games are good, but they're still just long. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.